Hi, it's Sarah from Hardcover Hearts, and I'm here today to do a week in reading. So I keep saying I didn't have a great reading week, but what I read this week was amazing high quality, so I'm thrilled. I'm not going to be upset about it. So what I lack in volume, I made up for in quality. Last weekend was the Bay Area Book Festival. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the book festival was here in Berkeley, which was wonderful, but it was solid. It was morning to night event, panel. So barely got any time to eat, running from one part of Berkeley to the other. But it was living my best life. It was fantastic. I wouldn't trade it for the world. So with that, got a ton of new books, but didn't have a lot of time to read what was on my to-do list. So, and then it was a really crazy week at work, so I didn't get a lot of time to do that either. But let's talk about what I did read, because it was pretty remarkable. So first up, I finished The Magnificent Women Talking. This book, you are going to hear about it everywhere. If you haven't already heard about it, for the people who had ARCs, this just came out. It is the story of a Mennonite community in South America. This is based off of a true story that happened where in this community, the women of the community kept being attacked at night in their sleep, or they'd wake up feeling like something had happened to them, devastating had happened to them. They had been raped. What had been happening for years was that members of the community, the men in the community, had been taking belladonna, creating a mixture, and drugging the women, sneaking into their homes and raping them at night. And when they tried to talk to their church leaders about this and the leaders of the community, they were told that either they were hysterical, or that clearly they were being made to pay for some sin that they had done. One woman was suspicious and didn't fall asleep, pretended that she did, and actually caught her perpetrators. And that is what precipitated kind of the pre-story to when this novel opens. So the novel opens where the men have been taken for their protection, taken to prison. Normally in a Mennonite community, justice is meted out internally in their own community. But because of fear of the revenge of the women and the anger from the women, one woman in particular, they went ahead and called the local police so that the men could be taken in for their own safety. So all of the men of the village have left to bail out the other men that have been taken. And so the women have been left on their own, and they have 48 hours to determine what they're going to do. Are they going to stay, or are they going to try to go? And so they're dealing with questions of what does their community mean? How are they going to move forward? They don't speak any language other than their own language, which is a dead language. It's not a written language. They don't read their own language or any other language. They've never even seen a map. They've never been away from their environment. So this is a weighty decision that need to be made. And then on top of those practical decisions, there's also decisions of what does this mean about the nature of their religion, which is a pacifist religion. What does it mean in the nature of justice? What does justice look like in an environment like this? Core to the Mennonite beliefs is the idea of forgiveness. And if you cannot forgive people who've perpetrated acts against you or harms against you, you cannot get into heaven. And so there's all of these questions, all of these things happening in a very tense atmosphere, and hearing all of these women in their individual voices was fantastic. There is one single man who is left. He is an outsider. He is someone who had been previously ousted from the community and who had come back. And he is the only one who can write. And so he is brought in as the scribe. I know there have been a lot of controversy about this story being told through the written word of this scribe who is a man. And when I went to a talk that Miriam Toews was at, and she said that this was purposeful. Number one, she needed to tell their story in a way that made sense, and none of them write. And so for her, she needed that what was the reason that the story and could be told other than this kind of omnipresent, omniscious voice. And so and she liked the idea of turning the tables and having this man be the secretary, the quiet one who's not allowed to have a voice, and who's not allowed to enter in the conversation. He's just there as a scribe, period. So I thought that was a really interesting way to approach that quandary. So Women Talking, remarkable book. I can't recommend it more highly. I ended up putting all sorts of, I didn't have any good sticky notes. I just had these cat sticky notes. So I've got all these cats' heads popping out of here, but it'll do. Excellent book. It's a 5-star. I would be willing to reread that, which is kind of my criteria. Next up was I read my second Jane Harper, thanks to the Aussie April. I can't stop. I'm so hooked on Jane Harper. So I had the audio book going of The Dry, which is the first of her Aaron Falk series. So the setup was that Aaron Falk is called back to his hometown. His hometown is a very arid, place. It's very, it's like in the outback, and it's a really, really rugged, dangerous territory. And he's called back because his best friend from when he was a child killed himself and his 2 members of his family. And so he was called back by the family, but there's something that happened many years ago that makes you think that maybe the man who killed his family also had his hand in a murder of their friend from when they were in high school. So there's many mysteries at play. The voice is phenomenal. Her pace is amazing. I love how she gets her characters to a point where you think you finally know who someone is, and then she'll twist and give you something new with them and bring them to the forefront in a different way. I really, really appreciate her writing, and am going to continue to find more Jane Harper. So I kind of liken her to the same way I feel about Tana French, where very, very strong writing, interesting topics, interesting approaches, very highly recommend. So that was The Dry. And then I also finished The Milkman, and I'm going to put up a video. I think I've got it ready to go. A deeper dive into this. So please be on the watch for that. But this was remarkable. Another 5 read, which is highly unusual for me. I recommend this not in physical form, but in audiobook. I think audiobook is the way to go with this. It's a rich, incredibly complex story of an incredibly tenuous time in the life of an 18-year-old girl who is living in a community that is very, very controlled by outside forces, self-controlled by inner forces, and each family controls their own doings. And she's trying to live her life in these scenarios, in this environment, when she is approached by a man who is known to be they call him a paramilitary, a very bad man who is doing very dangerous things, and he has approached her because he is interested in her, and she does not know what to do. Wonderful book, tense, emotional, beautiful language, a hard read. I highly recommend the audio. This won the Man Booker, and I'm now hoping that it wins the Women's Prize because it was that good. Okay, so that's what I completed. So I mean, what am I complaining about? I read 2 5-star books, and The Dry I gave a 3.5, which I thought was really great. I liked The Lost Man a little more, but The Dry was great too. So what am I reading now? So the first thing that I'm reading, because I needed a little bit of a break. I was reading some heavy material there with women talking in Milkman. So I started reading a new series to me. I've never read any MC Beaton, and she seems prolific writer. I think I've seen some of her Agatha Raisin TV shows every once in a while on Acorn or BBC America. So it's kind of, I thought it was, kind of fun little kind of quirky, cozy mystery maybe. But then I saw this series that she does, the Edwardian Murder Mystery series. And I don't read a lot of Edwardian period pieces. So I was like, oh, well, let me check that out. And I was completely entranced by the name Snobbery with Violence. That was pretty good, right? So I started reading this, and I love it. There's a lot of class in there, class distinctions in there. There's an overeducated woman who her coming out is ruined because she decided to march with the suffragettes. So go on, girl. So I'm just flying through that. It's really fun. I guarantee I'm going to finish it today. So it's really, really, really fun. Snobbery with Violence by MC Beaton. And then I found this at the Bay Area Book Festival last week. This is Essential Essays, Cultural Politics and the Art of Poetry by Adrienne Rich. So one of the panels last week had all of these women that actually knew Adrienne Rich, contributed either to this book or previous work that she's done. And people like Morgan Parker was there, and she's done some really interesting work as of late. And she talked about how this was her bridge to white women. And if a woman had read Adrienne Rich and really was a fan, or at least was familiar with these concepts, then she knew that she had a kinship with that woman and that they could be friends. And I just thought that was really beautiful. And I've been meaning to put some time to this, so I'm going to be reading this in slowly but surely. I started it and was so impressed with how immediate it was and how it was pulled in really quickly. I thought it would be highly theoretical, like a really intense polemic on feminism, but it's not. It's really beautiful. It's very accessible. So I'm enjoying it so far. Then I'm reading Kiese Laymon's Heavy, an American Memoir. Again, another really intense book. Kiese was there at the Bay Area Book Festival last weekend, and his approach and his readings have a softness and an awareness that comes from coming through a lot of suffering and a lot of pain, but arriving at a place of not perpetuating more, but really understanding deeply what it means to be a Black man in America, what it means to be a heavy, overweight Black man in America, where you're not only battling the culture at large, the white male patriarchy, you're also sometimes within your own community and your expectations of what you're supposed to be versus who you want to be, and dealing with the self-hatred and some of the challenging things that happen when they're oppressed. So really unpacking a lot in this book. A lot. I am so impressed. Roxane Gay did the blurb on the front and said, "Oh my God, heavy is astonishing, difficult, intense, layered. Wow, just wow." And she's pretty right. So I'm incredibly impressed with it so far. I'd say I'm about a fourth through, and I'm taking this slow because it is there's a lot there to unpack. And then the last thing that I'm reading right now is Normal People by Sally Rooney. Taking this slowly because I have a month before I meet for the book club, and I just want to be fresh with the finishing, and it won't take me that long. So I'm halfway through, and I'll just plug away. I'll probably pull this in and get really double down on this right as we're getting ready to meet for our next book club. But that's what I'm reading. And a special shout out to Just One Reader. So we've been finding that we have a commonality and a love for Helene Hanff of 84 Charing Cross Road. which is my favorite. His is Apple of My Eye. And just another reason that I'm loving BookTube is just all the connections and all the people that I'm meeting that we get to talk about really fantastic books. So I hope you have a great weekend reading. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you later. Bye.